You're right, babes, it's a Jolene again, and I'm here to bring it back to what it used to be, right? Which was like a lot of story times. I do a lot of story times about like my sex life. I stopped doing that after I was violently raped on the beach. 2 people watched it happen. They came up to me afterwards and they said, "Are you Jolene Dawson?" And I was like, "Yeah, babes, I am." And so that kind of like traumatized me out of talking about this kind of stuff. But you know what? Time's passed. I am re-entering like a sexual renaissance. So now I'm back to talk about my sex life again. It's what you've all been wanting. I mean, I've been seeing the messages. I've been seeing everything. So I'm going to tell you about the 8-man gangbang that I had. And I ended up getting a notice of eviction, or whatever you call it, where the real estate's like, "No, babes, you can't be doing that." So I'll start out how it all started out. It's like I was like pretty depressed, and I hadn't been seeing anyone. I was just chilling, doing my thing, right? And so an old friend of mine, let's call him Matt. He bumped into one of my exes and was like, so I'll tell you about Matt. So he's Latvian, right? But he like grew up in Russia and then moved to Germany. So he's got like this crazy accent, right? And he speaks like 1,000 languages. And so it's kind of like comical, really. Like when you hear him speak, it's kind of like, it's like a fake accent, right? It sounds like it, but it's like proper his accent. So he bumps, and he's kind of a scary man. But anyway, I met him on a flight. If you want the story about how I met him, happy to tell it. But he bumps into one of my exes who I'm still like pretty close with. And he's like, "What's happening with Jolene? Like, I haven't heard from her. That's not like her. Normally, you know, she's hard to get away from," type of thing. And so my ex is like, "Yeah, no, she's actually not been all right lately. She's been like a bit out of sorts." So anyway, my friend messages me and is like, "I heard that you're not doing too well. Like, what's going on? Like, I'll come over, but like, I've got one of my friends with me, if that's all right. Like, I'm gonna bring him. Like, it'll be a good time. Like, we'll have fun. We'll be hanging out. Like, we'll take care of you. Don't worry. We'll put a smile on your face, babes." And I'm like, "Yeah, I love that. I like where this is going." So I'm like, "Yeah, come over." So he comes over. He brings his friend, and we're talking. We're chatting away, and then I am like talking about one of my other friends. Turns out they know each other. So then I'm like, "Oh, well, why don't you come over?" Well, guess what? He's with one of his friends, right? And so we're drinking, we're hanging out, we're doing all of that. And it's me and like these 4 guys. So you can imagine things get pretty out of hand. You know, we start sucking and fucking, don't we? So we're doing that. We're hanging out, doing our thing. They've got huge cocks, right? And I'm like, after this time of like not really exploring my sexuality like I'm used to, I'm like, this is a nice, delightful change. So I'm like, you know what wouldn't hurt? A few more men, right? So I'm saying to them, like, let's get some more men around, like, let's have some fun. Like, I'm totally down for it, especially if the cocks are as big as I'm used to, then that's fantastic. Well, I reckon one of my neighbours can hear me. That's kind of embarrassing, but anyway, I'm sure they heard me when this happened. So they invite some of their friends over. It ends up being like 8 men, all of them from Europe. And I mean, you guys know what Europeans are like, especially the men. They really know how to give it to you. So we're all hanging out. We're all sucking and fucking. I felt kind of bad though, because like obviously what's happening is I can only do so much. So a lot of the guys are just like standing around waiting their turn, right? Which is like, I can only imagine how that felt, but you know, we got the job done. The one thing I will say is if you're gonna have that many men over doing that kind of thing, don't have the heater on. Like, I learned that the hard way, because we had the heater on and it's like huffing and puffing, like it's not great, smells like a gym. But anyway, I think everything's going cool, everything's going smoothly, all of that. By the end of it, I'm feeling well worn out. I'm telling you now, like, I had the best sleep that night. Well, I wake up the next morning to an email from my real estate, and they're on about, like, you can't have this many people in your apartment, like, it's a fire hazard, we've got noise complaints, people are saying you're doing this and that, and I'm like, well, yeah, babes, I am, actually. Like, that's exactly what I've been doing, you know, and I wasn't having it. So I called up the real estate, and I'm like, babes, now you're telling me I can't get gangbanged in the privacy of my own home? Like, what's that about? Like, you got to be chatting shit right now. You're taking the piss, you're taking the mickey. Like, I don't want to hear it, and I don't want to have it. Like, babes, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. They're like, if it happens again, like, we're going to have to get rid of ya. I don't know what to tell ya. Like, it's just what we're going to have to do. And I'm like, babes, it's a bit unfair. It's not like, I don't know what you're on about. They're saying, you know, this many people in your apartment, that's a fire hazard. Babes, the only thing on fire was this pussy. So I don't know what you're worrying about. It's not going to be a fire. It's just not, you know. So they're just going on and on and on, telling me what I can and can't do with my body, right? I don't want to hear it. I'm not happy. I was happy when it was happening, let me tell you. It was great. Huge cocks, all of it. Well, except for one. But, you know, I didn't let him know that. You got to put on a floor show, you know? So that went really well, and that's what happened. And I ended up with this, like, notice, like, final warning, like, don't let it happen again. And I just talk about between a rock and a hard place, right? Definitely a hard place, that's for sure. And let me tell you, that next morning I felt like the winds could pass straight through me, in one end, out the other. Like, I was wide open, you know, not to get graphic, but it was like a deflated, like, truck tire, if you know what I mean. So that was, like, pretty cool, I guess. I was a little worried. Have to go to the proctologist. Nothing to worry about, though. But other than that, that's, like, my re-entrance into, like, my sexual renaissance. So I'm, like, pretty happy to share about it. And you know what I think I'm going to do is, like, really bring these story times back now that I'm, like, going for it. I'm back on the horse, so to speak. And yeah, that's what's been happening to me. So it was a good time. I was pretty happy. You know, I will say a couple of them were German, and it can get, like, a bit comical when you can hear him saying, like, oh yeah, this is wunderbar, oh yeah, oh yeah. Like, to me, like, it was like a bit of a laugh, you know. But so hard to stay focused with that going on. But I managed, I got through it, I survived. So, you know, welcome back to the, what's the term? Welcome back to the pool, to the dating pool. Let's call it dating. I mean, I had a great time. What more do you want to know? I just thought I'd share the story. You know, I know you guys, that's the kind of thing you like to hear about. Everyone misses me old videos of, like, doing this and that, sleeping with, like, 2 brothers and whatever. Which, you know, I've seen them since. They still can't convince them to do a threesome, which is, like, kind of a downer, but we'll get there. We'll figure it out. But anyway, that's where I'm at. So, thanks for watching. Practice safe sex. I used to get, like, all these comments being like, I hope you're safe, I hope you're safe. Well, based on the fact that I have more than 2 brain cells to rub together, yeah, of course I'm safe. I'm doing what I can, you know, but it is what it is. So I'm going to link some resources down below. If you need any, like, information on how to stay safe, all of that stuff, make sure you vet the people that you sleep with. You don't want to end up, like, in a bathtub with no kidney or something. So I'm glad it was all friends of friends, because if it wasn't, and there's, like, 10 guys, like, what am I supposed to do if it gets out of hand? Like, I have a hard time opening most water bottles. So, don't know what to tell ya. I mean, I look better up close, don't I? Sorry about that, but lazy back, I guess. Anyway, thanks for watching. I had a great time, and I had a great time telling you about it. So subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you next week. Let me know what else you want to know, and I will keep these stories coming.